a lot of shine. Running up the number, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. I'm big time, lot of sun. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try to take it from me. Yeah. Big time, big time, big time, big time. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind. Lot of sun, smoky in the air, that's a lot of crime. Pockets running over with the dollar signs. Try to take it from me. Big time. I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind. I'm big time, lot of shine. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pine. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try and take it from me, from me, from me, from me. Big time, double nine. Diamonds in my teeth, I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind.
And welcome into a Thursday episode of the Ysn Power Hour. DJ with you, along with Trey and Mush. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Good. Minute of a demo, all that good stuff. So.
Yeah, Rob, you're on location. It's taking an hour out of your day, so we appreciate it. Are you in the Youngstown area, or did you get outside?
No, it's I'm in Boardman, but it's funny because I can basically coach my customers on how to shut their house down and be quiet while I'm doing a podcast. I mean, for the most part, everybody's pretty cool with it. So.
Well, that's all that matters, right? I mean, listen, their house is getting a little pub. So again, for anybody that needs Rob's what Rob does is services. Rob, tell them what you do and how to reach you.
Remodeling, painting, all that good stuff. Full bathrooms, kitchens. Just go to Facebook. If you search RGM, it's usually the first one that pops up, and that way you can see all the work and all that stuff. So
it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. I checked it out the day, was it last week after you told me all about it? So you do great work. Really, really good work. You know who does good work? Little guy named Mickey Mouse. And it's Mickey Mouse's birthday today, gentlemen. And so that makes me question, what is your favorite Disney movie that maybe you've seen a time or two, or ones that you've seen about 1,000 times? And in case that you have kids, Trey, not yet, you probably have the most Mickey Mouse knowledge out of all of us because you're the closest back to the days.
I mean, probably. I mean, the best Disney movie of all time is Lion King. I don't think it's debatable, but you know.
Wow. I mean, it's debatable. I mean, there's 1,000 Disney movies. 1,000 of them.
You're right. They're just not as good as Lion King. They're good. Just not as good as Lion King. I don't know. Something about the movie.
That's actually one of my favorite Disney of all time, Lion King. I've been watching that movie ever since '94 when it came out in '90, whatever it was.
It is such a sad movie. Like, such a sad movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
terrifying.
Nemo's close, but like.
I don't think I've seen. I might have seen the entire Finding Nemo one time. One time, yeah. I'm more of a Toy Story guy. I got to be honest with you.
Okay. There's like 7 of them.
No.
There's like, isn't there like 5 actually?
I want to say there's 4.
I think there's 5.
I think there's 5. The new one.
There's a new one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
Or we
don't
could
know about
lose-
this new one. I'm all about the first one and the second one, and the third one. Was it the third one that they all go to die? Like they're in the furnace.
Yeah, yeah, with the bear.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Like that's come on. Like I can't have a teddy bear ever again for my kids at all. I mean, because I mean, what if that bear takes my kids into a furnace? Like that can happen. Disney is real.
I'm
It
sure
is
there's a
real.
phobia for it.
It is. So Rob, you're gonna go with Lion King as well?
That's probably my favorite. It's close between Lion King and Aladdin.
Oh, Aladdin's a good one. Aladdin's a
Other
really
than that, I can't. It was usually those two for me.
If you had to hang out with one Mickey Mouse character for a day, one Disney character for a day, who would it be?
I'd probably say Goofy. You get away with doing a lot more dumb stuff hanging out with that dude.
Like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse character, like any Disney character.
Any Disney character. Go ahead, man.
I'll go with Mr. Incredible.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Donald Duck because that dude always gets flack. He always gets blamed for everything. So I feel like he's got a mean streak in him. So I'm gonna hang out with the Duck. Rob, do you have a Would You Rather brought to you by Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods?
I do. So today's Would You Rather is going to be: Would you rather lose all your teeth or lose a day off your life every time you kiss someone?
Oh.
Man.
And we're talking about the significant others and all that stuff. So
Man.
entire day off your life every time you
Every
guys
time.
kiss.
I don't know about that.
I can get fake teeth, right?
It says lose your teeth. If you want to spin it that way, it's probably an easy pick because I just go with dentures. So we're gonna go and say no.
Okay.
You have to walk around with no teeth, or lose a day off your life every time you kiss somebody.
Oh,
That's
not
tough.
good. I don't like
tough.
this one.
I don't either.
It's a good one, but well, look at the spoiler alert, Anthony. Spoiler
Oh,
alert.
man. That's funny. That's funny.
What would you do, Rob?
I'll tell you right now, if I had no teeth, just shoot me in the face. It's an easy one for me.
How
I'd
do
be
you
done
eat?
with. That's what I'm saying. I'm not even worried about the eating part. I'm worried about if I go out and
The eating.
make a joke and somebody gets me to smile, and then no. You could take 1 week off my life, and I would have still gone with the week off my life. Like I said, no teeth. Just stick a fork in me. I'm done.
So you're not going to kiss anybody?
I mean, if it came down to it, I would still kiss people because I'm losing a day off my life. And I mean, we've been together for going on 9 years. It's not like we kiss that much anymore anyway. So, I mean, I'm not out there kissing everybody, so we're good. So realistically, I couldn't imagine not having teeth. I would seriously I would be like, we had a good run. I'm done with life. It's over. I couldn't do it.
Trey's best smooching days are ahead of him, so he's got to really think about this one.
It's tough. I mean, I don't want to go with no teeth. I mean, he brought up the eating thing. I didn't even think about that. Like, that's terrible. As it like, I might have to do the take a year off my life. I don't think I could function without teeth. That would.
So
be
you only plan on kissing somebody 365 more times of your life?
and
You'd have like a countdown. You'd have to literally check off your wall. I'm like, I'm at a year, man.
I would have to. I wouldn't be able to not have teeth. Like,
you would decide on who you kissed the same way Elaine used to decide on who was sponge-worthy. It would be the same thing. So, I mean, it's for me. I would literally be
different. It's a little bit different.
Oh no, I would have to go with that though. I wouldn't be able to function without teeth.
I think I'm going the same route. I don't. I can't think of a life without.
So if you do the math, let's just say we're just going to throw this out there. All right, so she kisses me when she leaves, and then we kiss each other when I get home from work or she gets home from work, and then usually a kiss goodnight. So that's 3 kisses. So that's 3 kisses a day, and we're at a year. We're right over 1,000 days. So first year over 1,000 days off my life just for doing that. So if let's say 10 years, 10 good years, you're 10,000 days off your life. So like I said, regardless, I couldn't care less. Without no teeth, I don't care. I could not live without teeth.
That's that's one of your better ones, I would say. You've been bringing the heat lately, Mr. Mush. So well done. We have a celebration before we get started here on the Ysn Power Hour. It is Mr. Trey Civerella. You have some breaking news that you posted earlier on your Instagram account.
Well, yeah, I posted it yesterday, and Anthony said it. I want to say thanks to Anthony for saying that. Yeah, I committed to Bethany yesterday. I think Bethany's a great school. I've had a lot of good conversations with Coach Thomas and Coach Scott down there, and it was just a great environment. And I fell in love with it when I went up there. And yeah, so I committed yesterday, and I couldn't be more happier. It feels like a weight was off my shoulders because that whole process is not fun. Unless you're throwing 98, it's not easy because you go to, like, I traveled, I think, with my dad these past 2 months. I think there was only 2 weekends where we weren't out of town for baseball camps or something else to try and get in front of coaches. And just to know that that's done and decided, it's a big weight, and I couldn't be more happy.
For those of you who don't know, Trey is a pitcher for Ursuline, also pitches during the summer for the Class B League. Who are you on right now, Trey?
Creekside.
You're on Creekside. And now he joins the Bethany Bison as in their pitching staff. So, Trey, we couldn't be happier for you. Obviously, we've known you for a while now, and you've been doing great things at YSN on and off, the camera. And so let's talk about the recruitment kind of thing. It's changed since I was, quote unquote, recruited, because they talk about D3 and how there's no money in it, obviously, with no scholarships of athletic ability to be given. Now, there are scholarships to be provided. They're just not directly correlated to athletics. So when you were looking at D2, D3, JUCO, what kind of went into it for you personally?
So I felt more security in a D3 school. I think that, when I went down to Teal, obviously they're a D3 school too, but I think that their coach, Coach Shalley, put it the best. You can get certain scholarships for D2, D1, but who's to say that you don't get hurt and the scholarship gets pulled right from under you? I feel like with a D3 school, you get if your grades are good, you get decent to pretty good scholarships for that, and there's security there. They're not going to take that away from you because you twisted your ankle and you can't play the next year, or you have to have Tommy John, so now you're out for a year and a half, and that scholarship that was $7,000 is now taken away from you, opposed to your academics where they're not getting taken away from you unless you fail to succeed in the classroom, which that's a different thing. So I felt more security with the D3 school, especially one like Bethany where it's smaller. I think they told me like 75% of their students are athletes anyway in some sport or another. So I just felt more security in going to a school like that where I felt really wanted and had really good conversations with coaches, and I felt secure with what the scholarships that I got.
What are some of the expectations that maybe you've talked to the coaches or some of the players about when you go from being a high school athlete to a college athlete?
Well, I think the biggest thing is it's not like high school because you're not going to go and sit in a classroom from 7 to 2 every day. You have somewhat extra time, and a lot of that goes to the weight room. You always hear about how colleges beef up the players that are coming in from high school, and that's not a joke. That's more true than it could be. So just learning to get on a dietary program where if you need to gain weight. If you need to lose weight and turn into muscle, do that as well. So definitely focusing more on what you eat and spending more time in the weight room and getting to know your body more. That is what they stressed when I went up there, and that's what most D3 schools that I've talked to have said. Getting to beef up a little bit if you need to, or lose weight and turn into muscle.
Rob, your son's an athlete and he plays football for Western Reserve. I mean, I'm sure he's gotten some looks from some people. What kind of things do you have concerns for as a father in today's society of everybody seemingly wants to market, pull your kids in? It's a battle of numbers nowadays. It doesn't matter necessarily if you're going to play. It matters of how many people you can play. The armies of football players that you see on the sidelines. I mean, have you experienced any of this stuff, Rob?
No, basically what it boils down to, regardless of the, if it's D1, 2, 3, regardless of the sport, you're going from high school to college. The most important thing you can tell any kid that's getting ready to go into that transition is stay level headed. You're gonna experience new things. You're gonna be around new people. You're gonna be, you think it was not too different, but it's gonna be astronomically different from that sport at a high school to college level, regardless of, where you're going or, what sport you're playing. The most important thing that I've always told young kids that are willing to listen is you have to be level headed. You have to be, don't let anything get away from you. Take advantage of this opportunity. Don't let it slip. Don't slack off, things like that. And, if you want it, you're going to get it. It's really that simple because the stepping stone has already been, you're already there. So if you've really been noticed and everybody's already done checking you out, now it's up to you to decide whether or not, you want to take advantage of this or you want to just skate by. And, the most important thing a kid can do is take advantage of that opportunity, period.
So what are some of the biggest things that you learned between the ages of 18 and 22 that you didn't know when you were taking when you graduated from high school? You didn't really expect. Life kind of hit you in the face, Rob.
For me personally, one of the biggest things was this world don't care about you and your feelings. This world can hand you your ass pretty quick if you let it. And, the things that kids are taught in high school, I've talked about this more than once, having, a life class for these kids. It's one thing, first of all, I can tell you right now that a high majority of you are probably not going to use algebra when you get done with school. I'm not saying anything bad about that. I'm just saying in general, the thing is they got these kids ready to basically kind of be like a robot when it comes to school. And realistically, what they should have done is they should have taken an hour out of each day and taught these kids how to do things like, balance a checkbook and, get ready to, what you're going to experience once you're out of that shell that you were in for 18 years in your mom and dad's roof. And like I said, you're not going to be ready for a lot of things that come at you unless you got somebody in your ear coaching you up like, hey, it's kind of important to have a decent credit score when you're 20 years old or whatever. Those credit cards that they're going to approve you, there's a reason why you're approved so easily at that age. They want, you keep those kids away from that stuff. There's so many things that you could take a kid and walk them through. But not to get off track, but realistically, more staying focused on that transition from high school to college sports. The most important thing I can tell kids at that age is, get ready because it's not as coddled as you're used to. There's going to be some issues. There are going to be some things. There's going to be some situations that you're going to have to deal with as an adult rather than what you're used to and having everybody else deal with them for you. So in other words, you got to get ready to man up.
Trey, what are you nervous? You still have a lot of time. We haven't even crossed over into 2022 yet. You haven't played your senior season of baseball. Are you nervous about, do you feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders? Do you feel like, now that you've made this decision, you can get your focus back?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the time spent going to, these camps and stuff, it was a lot. We were driving from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. just, it was a lot. So we were going to a lot of different places, Indiana, Kentucky, New York, a lot of different camps to get in front of a lot of different coaches. And just to know that decision has been made and, I don't have to, keep worrying about that and when I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, in terms of that, yeah, there has been a big weight. And in terms of nervous, I'm a competitor. So when I go out there, no matter who's in the batter's box or whatever, I'm going to pitch to my style of baseball and I'm going to play my style of game. But I definitely feel like my focus is now, and it has always been on this senior season. I feel like last year wasn't representative of how we can play at Ursuline and how we should have been playing. So, my focus is 100% on that. And I feel like there's something left to prove there. And I couldn't be more motivated now, especially with that off the table to get focused on this senior season.
Well, at least you get to keep all your green stuff, right? You don't have to change your Under Armour or anything. You can just throw it on underneath the old Bethany jersey.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take it easy on my Titans. I know Mikey out there, he's watching too, and says congratulations. I would say from our standpoint, we talked a little bit before we came on the air. The President's Athletic Conference is one of the toughest conferences and has one of the best tournaments for baseball around. And you're going to be able to experience that, and that's going to be something cool for you. the thing that I was shocked at, that I try to tell everybody that's going to take that next level, and I was just D3. I was Ohio Northern and then Westminster. The amount of, how do I put this? The seriousness that they take sports, even at the Division III level, is incredible. It is a job. It is something that you're going to do, every day, probably up to 6-8 hours a day. It's almost like a full-time job. And then on top of that, you have to make sure that your grades are there, you're in the weight room, and then obviously you want some social time as well. And for you going down to West by God, Virginia, there's going to be some social time involved there, and it's a great school, is Bethany. So what are the things, I mean, you have a bunch of friends that have committed and are going to commit over the next 6 months or so. What are some of the things that you guys have talked about collectively as seniors that go, man, this is kind of out of whack here. I didn't expect this or that.
Well, the biggest thing, that I talked to other guys who have committed and who are in the process is, during the process, trying to take a deep breath about everything. Don't letting it overwhelm you, but, just to take a step back. I play with some of these guys that have committed to bigger schools than I have, but nonetheless, schools and, around the area, Akron, Brady went to UCF. So, to know that I played with some of these guys my whole life, especially with a guy like Zach Harib, who goes to Mooney. He just committed to Walsh. I played with him since I was 6 years old. So to really take a step back and say, hey, this is kind of like one last ride this year, whether to play against each other and with each other in the summertime, to kind of like take a step back and realize how far everything has come since we were that young. It's really crazy to see how quickly time has gone by. So, that aspect of it is really eye-opening.
Rob, have you seen the same thing I have in the announcements of committing and how it's changed since we were in school? Like, I didn't have a signing day. I didn't have any. I was lucky to even get the papers sent to the right mailbox for my signing day. There was no celebration. There was no anything like this. How was like commitment day changed for you, Rob? And everybody's committing. Everybody gets something other, name in the paper, on YSN, things of that nature. How's it changed for you from your perspective?
I don't remember anything like this back in '96. When I say anything, I mean there's nothing. I was actually thinking about that last week and the week before when YSN started posting up everybody. Like everybody's going to wherever they're going, and I thought it was cool as hell to watch all these kids, get to sit at the table and get that banner behind them, and let everybody know, hey, I'm gonna continue my education and my athletic skills at this school, whatever. But back when I was graduating, there was none of that. The only time you've seen anything like that was, if you were probably one of the best players in the country, and they made a spectacle about it, which wasn't all over the place either. And then the only other time after that was, you're seeing these kids go from college into whatever pro sport they're playing. But high school, complete night and day. And I'll say that about recent. And now I know YSN isn't, aged like my senior year, but, seeing all of these posts about all these kids, and then, we're here now. So it's just going to be like this from here on out. So I personally think it's awesome. I think it's great for these kids to, get their faces and their names out there. And I know they love it. And, it can't be nothing but fun for them. So good for everybody.
How about you, Trey? Are you looking forward to your signing day and getting your face out there? I mean, your face is already out there every day from 3 to 4. So are you looking more forward to getting your face out there for all the hard work that you put in?
Yeah, it's cool. Just, I'm looking forward to it for sure. I've seen people in my grade who have done it, like Alyssa Shealy. She just did it a week ago when she went to Slippery Rock. And, it's definitely something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And, it's something that I've been thinking about these past couple of years since I've seen people in the grades above me do it. So it's a very cool thing to be ready for.
Are you going to go with the Bethany hat on, or what are you going to do?
Yeah, I got a Bethany hat coming, and I have a T-shirt. So, yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, congratulations, buddy. We appreciate you. Well, one of the things I definitely want to talk about today is a rule that I don't think many people pay attention to, that I'm not even sure that one of the schools we have. We did a soccer game last week, and they had a championship game on Saturday. Well, here's a rule, Rob, and I know you're going to go ballistic on this. Did you know?
I can't wait to hear this.
Did you know that if you are ejected from a game and it's your last game of the season, so it's an elimination game, you miss 10% of whatever sport you play next.
What do you mean sport? Like
So
that sport, or
let's say
compared
if
to another
you
sport?
yeah, so let's say you're a soccer player and you get 2 yellow cards, which equals 1 red card, and you're ejected, and your next sport is baseball, and you have 20 baseball games. You have to miss 2 games of that baseball season because of what you did in soccer season. Is it fair or is it not?
Well, first of all, whoever came up with that rule, I just will say a small prayer for you tonight that you do nothing but stub your toe from here on out every single night of your life. I think it's beyond ridiculous. There's a huge difference between holding kids accountable and then doing stupid things like that. Because it kind of, for me, it goes back to the whole, you could play the targeting conversation into this. How many times have we watched college games in the last few years that, you've been preaching to these kids since they were 6 years old? Hey, you better go in sideways and you better light that kid up. So, of course, they're trying to make the sport safer, and I get that. That's fine. But the amount of ejections that I've seen for the most ridiculous targeting calls is unbelievable. So if something like that happens in high school, like they get ejected for targeting or, whatever you did in soccer to get your yellow cards, or basketball, you're getting too many technicals or whatever. I totally agree with holding kids accountable and saying, hey, man, you need to calm down if you're that type of kid, if you're playing that type of way. But, I think they're trying a little bit too hard here, and they're sitting around that round table, and you're getting people that are so bored with themselves that they're just sitting there coming up with the most ridiculous things they could throw on everybody else because maybe they're that miserable with their own lives. I don't know. But to penalize a kid, and regardless of what happened, and say, we're going to transfer this over to your next sport. So we're going to punish you, number one, for being a multi-sport athlete, even though realistically we want these kids playing as much sports as they can to maybe keep them out of trouble, whatever, to keep them as active as, Jesus, you think about the childhood obesity problem we have. I don't know if too many Americans are aware of this, but childhood obesity is one of the biggest problems that this country actually has. So keeping these kids in these sports and making sure everything, works out in their favor. But let's go ahead and make another rule, because we can't stop making rules because we all love these rules. And we're going to penalize this kid going from sport to sport. And the two things might not even have anything to do with each other. Yeah, you're right. That stuff like that drives me crazy.
I don't like that it skips not only just sport to sport, but season to season. Like it's you go from fall to spring if you're playing baseball and you don't play basketball. To me, this isn't. I don't even want to say it's an archaic rule because it's probably one that hasn't been around that long and nobody's really had to utilize it. But the OHSA is going to have to look at this and say, is this feasible? Because to be held accountable in one sport that has nothing to do with the other makes no sense to me. No sense. And if you're a senior and you do it, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. You're not playing another down or inning or play in the OHSAA in that sport, so just let it go. But the OHSAA has to have that thumb firmly planted right down on all of us. Trey, what do you think about this?
So my biggest thing with that is I don't necessarily think that actions in one sport are representative and should take the same penalties as another. My example for this would be if you get 2 yellow cards in soccer, that's not the same thing when you get ejected as getting in an umpire's face and calling him every profanity underneath the sun.
Agreed.
They do not equal. So I don't think that you should have a penalty that goes from sport to sport when rules aren't the same when it comes to ejections for each sport. That doesn't make any sense at all. So that's my biggest grief with it is if every sport had the same rules, which then there wouldn't be more sports, but if everyone did, then sure, okay, I can get it, but not every ejection is equal, and you don't get ejected for the same things in other sports. So it doesn't make any sense that they should have the same penalty.
Sigler says it's the school's responsibility to report it. I guess I would say, or what? Like, what happens if they don't? Like, somebody get a tattle on them? I'm interested. It would only be fair if it was an underclassman. The rule should only apply for that sport. Example, like you get a red card in your last game, they should be suspended for a game next soccer season. I can get behind that. There's consequences for actions, right? But if you're a senior and you decide that you're going to do something and you get yellow card, like at the end of the day, you're being punished enough if you're ejected from that game, right? That's it. That's the punishment. Because in Major League Baseball, they don't suspend somebody, for multiple games if you get ejected. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Trey. If you get ejected from a game, you get there's
a penalty.
Another game.
I believe I think it's 1 or 2. I know for the coaches it's more severe, but for a player, I'm trying to think because I think we had somebody close last year, and we were screaming the rule at us. So I think it's 2 games if I'm not mistaken.
So there you go. That's a penalty. It should not roll over into football the next year. It makes no sense at all.
In my opinion, it shouldn't roll into any kind of season. I mean, this is what I'm thinking. Maybe the kid was having a bad day. If you're talking about multiple sports, maybe that kid was going up a forward in basketball, and that forward just had his number, and he was doing the old NBA. If he reacted, so he got caught, whatever. And then you transfer that to football, it could be something just a totally different scenario. But to carry something over, I mean, I can understand the whole game for game. If you get kicked out of a basketball game, you're realistically playing again either that week or the beginning of next week. Okay, I get that. Maybe the kid deserves to be suspended for that next game. But to carry a penalty from season to season, in my opinion, or year to year, whatever. In my opinion, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. You're talking about possibly maybe a 15-year-old or maybe a 16-year-old kid that is actually maturing and being better in that junior year when he's 17 or she's 17 or whatever. But to carry that over an entire year, think about this. I mean, there's a reason why kids are allowed to drive at a certain age, and there's a reason why kids are allowed to vote at a certain age or drink at a certain age, because you're growing into that responsibility, right? So to basically take an adolescent kid who is at this point in his life.
Mid-rant. Hate to see it.
No.
Mid-rant.
That rule, in my opinion, is I'll just say it. You're an asshole, straight up. If you came up with that rule, there's no better way to put it. You're a straight up asshole, and I don't like you at all.
So how about this one? Let me ask you if this makes things a little bit easier, right? How about we stop relying on the OHSAA to govern the rules, and we start taking responsibility as schools, because schools can do a lot more that'll penalize than the OHSAA can. All they care about is their tournaments. Because the OHSAA, let's be real, they don't even care about the regular season. They could care less about anybody in the regular season. What they care about is their tournament and how much money they make. So naturally,
which is that?
Yeah. So when you look at this, if you get 2 yellow cards that make a red card and you're supposed to be ejected and you don't have any games left, maybe the school hands down punishment if they see fit, right? That's why we have administrators in schools. If you represent the school on your jersey, on your back, on wherever you represent that school in a venue, guess what? The school should have say of, that is not proper etiquette, and that's not what we try to do, and that's not who we represent. You get detention, or you can be suspended, or X, Y. I'm sure schools would look into it if there was a fight that broke out in the middle of a basketball game and they said, hey, we saw you throw a punch, you're suspended. It's no different than if a fight breaks out in the middle of a school day, correct? So why are we listening to the OHSA, number one? And then why aren't schools doing more, or can schools do more to prevent this kind of stuff from happening to where it's not up to the OHSAA? Does that make sense?
How does that work, though? I mean, do we basically formulate a plan and get everybody together regionally and get all these high schools to get on board with the same program and the same understanding and then boot them out? Or
how about this one? Darren Miller coming with a great alternative here. Alternative to serving the suspension, such as educate them on the rule with a class on sportsmanship and rules, etc. I have a better one, and maybe not better, but one up. There's a shortage for officials right now. Make the kid sit through an officiating class, and so that way they are certified officials, so that way they know what it's like. You know what I mean? And if they want to go make a couple bucks during the summer or spring or whatever, they're tagged. They're officials. I like this. This is a solution.
But that's what I'm saying. Like somebody like get Darren Miller to have these ideas, or get a Rob Mush or DJ Yoakley or a Trey to just say, hey, okay, let's sit down and have this conversation. What does everybody think would be the next best way? I personally don't know too many people that think it would be a great idea to take a kid's penalty from a sophomore year into his junior year and be okay with that. So if the majority would say, because I mean, you can't get it. I mean, I love Darren's idea. You know, hey, if they messed up, let's educate them and say, hey, this is exactly what you did, and this is probably how you can avoid it going forward. And then instead of penalizing it that way, it's way better.
And I know there's going to be the other edge of that sword, right? That says, well, if you're just educating them, more people are going to do it because they don't. No. Trust me. Do it on a Saturday, right in the middle of the day, or the butt crack of dawn. It's going to work just the same. That is penalizing them to them.
My thing is, right, you have people who, let's be honest, don't care about 90% of a season being the regular season, being probably 90 to 95% of it. And this rule can't apply to the last game of the season. Let's say you don't make the playoffs and you get ejected. That's considered the regular season. So you have people who don't care about over half the season making rules on something that they don't really care about. Because like you said, they always should say, hey, the big thing is their tournaments. That's what they care about. As soon as the regular season ends, that's when everything comes into play for them. So I think that we should have somebody who's more focused on the regular season and day-to-day aspects of games, making rules, not somebody or a group of people who don't care about over half the season.
I'm interested. Do you guys see this from Siggy saying?
I thought kids, if they were suspended, they didn't play.
They don't. But I also think, here, let me put that back up. I'm sorry. I also think that there's an issue with if you're suspended, right? If and let's say it's a regular season game, Rob, you and I tangle it up on the soccer field or on the football field, and we both get ejected from the game. You get suspended for a game, I get suspended for a game, and the school starts handing down suspensions, like your ISS, OSS, whatever that is. That goes in our file, right? And that goes, I mean, when you're looking at coaches and going to the play at the next level, those coaches look into what kind of marks you have against you. They look into your character and things of that nature. So I think there is something to this. I don't think that kids don't care about not being suspended from school. I think it does come down to, yes, they don't want to be suspended if they're good at their sport, naturally. But I also think that at the end of the day, if you're suspended from school, there's obviously going to be repercussions that probably go far beyond a game or whatever. So that it better be serious. And I'm gonna say it. I know that people were watching that state championship soccer game. The young man who got 2 yellow cards did not necessarily deserve it. And here's my bone to pick with the OHSAA. If you're gonna make this rule, it cannot be you're suspended 10% of your games from a different sport, because the people who are ejecting they can have a bone to pick too, right? It's a completely objective situation. And when you eject somebody, that is a call of an umpire, a referee, official, whatever. It's an objective call. And it's not necessarily always going to be one that's clear cut across the board. You know, just as the one on Saturday, I'll be honest, I don't think it was. I don't think it was clear cut. It could be, Rob, you talked about the kids having a bad day. Maybe the referee had a bad day. Maybe he spilled his coffee on himself going to work. And, then he's got to deal with that the rest of the day. And the kid said or did something that really ticked him off. He gets a yellow card. He gets another one later in the game for doing something he shouldn't. And guess what? He's out for 10% of his games. It's crap. It's crap. I don't think that you can do that based on an umpire. Now, I think it should be, if it's videoed, and really everything is videoed nowadays, then you get a conference or the state involved and you say, hey, look at this. And if you feel like he needs to be suspended, or she needs to be suspended for this amount of games, then you can hand it down.
I think too, if we're talking about somebody that's, let's say, has a reputation, if you have a kid that's known for, getting a little mouthy or getting the yellow cards or getting kicked out of basketball games, those are, like Trey was saying, some of the kids care about the regular season, some kids care about the postseason. That's going to fluctuate back and forth between like who your student athlete is too. Some of those kids aren't going to care. Some of those kids might be the problem. But the majority of this issue is going to come down to, like you said, if we're talking about a kid that is possibly being looked at, or if, let's say, Syracuse showed up and then we've been checking this kid out, and all of a sudden he recruiter finds out about the fact that he was kicked out of one game his junior year and then couldn't play in 10% of his games his senior year. All of a sudden, that guy's back on the bus going back to New York. Small things like that. And I'll tell you right now, if it was my kid and that's something like that happened, they would understand why the kid was so much of a jerk, because I'd be introducing myself to everybody. If you literally take away from the chance of that kid's scholarship because of an absurd rule like this, I couldn't imagine going through that as a parent or a student athlete.
And I think we've all seen it where umpires or officials kind of chirp back sometimes, right? Which doesn't de-escalate the situation. So you're giving power to people who don't necessarily care about the well-being of your son or daughter sometimes. And let's be honest, in one of these crunches where we don't have as many officials as we should, we don't get the kind of officials that we necessarily want. So, and I'm not saying anything about officials per se, but I'm saying that I've been on the field where I've heard some of the things that officials say to student athletes, and they have the power to kick out the student athletes, and the student athletes are defenseless. Zero chance. So if you eject a pitcher for putting his glove over his mouth and saying something to himself, right? Just trying to get that out, but he knowingly is trying to avoid any problems. So he puts his glove over his mouth and says something, and that umpire ejects you, and you're gone for 2 games. Oh,
it makes me cringe to think about it. Yeah,
and it's happened. And I'm not saying that the official in the soccer game did it on purpose. It was an objective call. It happened. What I'm saying is the OHSA needs to clean up their act and get in front of this, because I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that if I know the parents as well as I do, particularly the dad, he's going to have something to say in about 2 or 3 months. It's going to happen. I know him very well. He's well versed on all of this stuff, and he's not afraid to come right at you, come to your front door and knock on it and say, this is wrong. And unfortunately, the young man who is up against it is one of the better baseball players in this entire area. So it's going to be interesting to see if this comes to fruition or what happens, because I feel for him if it does, because this is going to be a bad situation. All right. Michael says, I remember when I had to eject a coach when I refereed a second grade soccer game over an offsides call. Second grade soccer game. Mike has a quick trigger. He says, Kapuya, get out of here. I'm sure that parent and the coach had nothing to do with it. Official has a ton of paperwork to submit when an ejection happens. Still, though, you know what I mean? Still, I say I get it. Used to, and our number one official is Chris Ziegler, but they don't care. Like, I firmly believe there's some officials out there that are just like coaches that have an ego, and just like players that have an ego, and nobody's gonna outclass me when it comes to on my pitch or my field or my court. Like, come on, man. Like,
it's good. It's good to know that there is, because I honestly didn't know that. I
didn't know that either.
But it's good information to have, because clearly, I don't think they're going to want to go down that road times 10 during whatever game they're roughing. Referees are people too. They're just like coaches. I remember coaching Little League football, and there's a few times where, it basically got to the point where I looked at the ref. I was like, listen, if you're going to throw the flag on them, and then you're going to throw the flag on us, but you're going to go back on to what, what you basically just told me why you did it, and then say that you're still wrong, right, and I'm still wrong. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell my kids to play how you just instructed us to play. And according to your method, a good example was a kid literally ripped my player's helmet off. ripped it off, and didn't throw the flag. So I said, okay, so you're telling me I can go over to my kids, not saying that I would. I can go over to my kids right now and say, listen, if you go to tackle the kids, make sure you rip their helmets off while you're doing it. Because now, it just depends on who, like you said, it could be a bad day. There's so many variables that can actually play into this decision. And yeah, we've seen plenty of times refs are like, if you go and piss a few of them off and see what happens for the rest of that game. And I tell parents this all the time, I try to be somewhat less vocal than what I'm used to in my younger age when it comes to refs. If you keep getting on them and you keep getting on them, keep yelling and watch what happens. Because if you think the calls are going to keep going your way or going to go your way, you're nuts. All you're doing is ticking them off.
Sigler says, in today's work of huddle, there's video everywhere to review. I don't think that there's teams anymore that don't have video to just watch themselves. You know what I mean? Whether it's huddle or they're doing it on their own, YSN or whatever it may be. I think that most teams now, they want to be able to have tape on themselves. Robert Swika, being an official takes a lot of patience, and you get a ton of build-up negativity. And over the years, it changes their perspectives. Does it make them better? Better, sure, but there's no commas in this sentence. Does it make them better? Sure, but some they take it to the heart and they will be stern. Listen, we're not knocking officials. I'm knocking the bylaws that the OHSAA has put in place for this. I've never seen it before. I've heard of it. I've never seen it to where it actually has to take place. Now, if you get a yellow card, a red card in like the regional finals, then obviously you're out the next game. I'm okay with that, right? Because the stipulation. You got to be careful. You get one yellow card, you're very careful for that second one. It comes when it's an elimination game. Your team's eliminated, and that's it. There's no more games to be played in that sport. I'm sorry. I think it just stops there, and it goes to the school, and they handle it from there. You can't take it from sport to sport. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You can't transfer that. You know what I mean? Because it's not the same penalty everywhere. Because think about it. You're missing 2 games of baseball or 2 games of basketball. But if you don't play football until the next season, you're only missing 1 game. And then what happens if you play soccer and football? Do you miss the next football game?
Oh.
And that one football game, of course it could be bigger in sports, but that one football game could be a huge difference maker.
Especially this time of year. You think about it. If it happened in soccer state championship and your team's still in football and you're the kicker and you're in the regional finals, you're out right there.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense that it transfers from sport to sport. To me, it makes the most sense if it's the elimination game and you're sitting there and your team's eliminated and you were ejected, it goes down to the school, and if the school doesn't do anything about it, then it goes up to the OHSAA. To me, that makes the most sense.
Sport to sport's absurd as it is. But, add on the whole possibly going from year to year. I can't wrap my head around that.
You want to throw in something else. Imagine if that was an open enrollment situation.
Yeah.
So you're a junior or a sophomore in an elimination game, you get ejected, and then you open enroll to another school, or you move to another school. Like your dad or mom gets a job in a different, think about that. Oh, the tangled web we weave. Because then what do you do?
Well, according to that rule, it wouldn't matter, would it?
No, you still get suspended for those 2 games or 1 game or whatever it is.
To put that on a kid like that's not teaching him anything.
No.
That's just a round table of adults making stupid ass decisions. Straight up.
I can get behind that. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we got a little bit more talk about this, as well as a quick preview of our games tomorrow. Basketball, boys, is back on the network. And then, of course, we got our football tomorrow nights between West Branch and some team, Trey, that you might know, the Ursuline Fighting Irish. We'll take a quick break. Be back right after this 2-minute break on YSN. Here we go.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ysn Power Hour. DJ, Trey, and Mush with you. And ladies and gentlemen, basketball has returned, and it starts tomorrow right here on YS. I think we have something tonight, if I'm not mistaken, a foundation game of some sort. The Newton Falls at Hubbard Foundation game. It is a breast cancer foundation game for Megan Shellhorn, who is a teacher at Hubbard, one of the founding blocks of YSN Hubbard, and she's done so much for us. And I know that the school will be taking care of it tonight. And I was there earlier today. I'm excited for them to have this. Megan, you're in our thoughts and prayers. That's all I can say. You have been. You mean so much to us at YSN for your patience, your kindness, and the way that you treated and handled your students as they learned what it's like to be broadcasters. So this is a very special game for us tonight. Again, Newton Falls at Hubbard, the Breast Cancer Foundation game for Megan Shellhorn. So make sure you tune in. That game's at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, guys, I will have the Heartland versus Leetonia game. There's no JV game, so that game's going to start at 5:30. 6:30, Don O'Brien, the voice of the JFK Eagles, will have Cheney at Warren JFK. Ty Bartell is going to be at Wyndham for Cardinal versus Wyndham. Crestview at Beaver Local. That is going to be a gem of a game. Michael McKenzie will have that game. Noah Ricks will have Hoover at Howland. And then you can go ahead at 7 o'clock and flip it on over. $9.99 gets you West Branch versus Ursuline at South Range. A dandy that's going to happen in Division 4. I cannot wait for this game. Trey, you've been following the Irish for all your life, but certainly for YSN this year. What's going to happen in this game? What do the Irish have to do to walk away winners and regional champs?
So I've been trying to get as much information as I could about the schemes and everything for this week. You know, I've been pressing these guys. The only answer that I've got consistently, it's crazy how they all said the same thing.
Imagine that.
I know, right? They said that they always have some fun stuff to throw in. You know, whether it's toward their goal line or in very specific circumstances, we always see some wild stuff. They said that there's no shortage of that being implemented this week. And they said they're going to keep it balanced. They said that there's no reason to go over heavy on one side of the offensive scheme, whether that's running it too much or throwing it more. They think that West Branch has the type of defense that if you lean toward too much of one of those aspects of the game, that you're going to get caught. So I'd expect to see a lot of balanced calls. I think we're going to see a hefty amount of runs from DeMarcus, but I also think we're going to see some RPOs, specifically Mark Manning in that slot position. Watch out for that. It seems like with these type of defenses that West Branch runs earlier in the season, we see that in Salem or we see that in other games, Mark Manning from that slot position always seems to rise up. You get an RPO over the middle of the field, or Brady likes to take a shot to him down the sideline. So I'd pay very close attention to him.
Keep an eye on 9. It's always a good idea. Rob, from your standpoint, what does West Branch have to do to silence the doubters?
Well, I'll tell you what, West Branch's defense has got to show up. I'm kind of leaning on going towards Ursuline on this game. I don't want to take anything away from West Branch. They're 13-0 for Christ's sake. They're a hell of a football team. You can't say enough good things about the way they've done the season. But, when you start looking at the points, if Max Preps is up to date, 621 to 259, which is just unbelievable. And then you got Ursuline over there at 514 to 403. So if you look at those numbers right there, you're thinking, Ursuline's defense might not be up to the task and stopping as potent as offense as West Branch has. I think West Branch they're going to have to rely on their defense, in this game. They're going to have to figure out a way I think they can hang with anybody offensively. But I think if their defense doesn't shut Ursuline down, one thing about Ursuline, they can literally hang with anybody when it comes to a shootout. And you've seen it. They can shoot out with anybody and be just fine. I think when it comes down to the only games that you got to kind of worry about is I'd say West Branch almost losing to Salem maybe. Ursuline having a bad week against St. Vincent St. Mary. They just didn't look right in that game at all. Other than that, it seems like this matchup was supposed to happen.
If it's a close game between the two of you guys, if it's a close game, who has the advantage, Ursuline or West Branch?
Ursuline.
I would say Ursuline myself.
Okay. Fair enough. We will get the picks tomorrow right here on the Ysn Power Hour. But now it is time for... the Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark, presented by Joe Dickey Electric. Visit them today, DickeyElectric.com. Anything commercial, residential, anything electrical, you go to the official electrical supplier of your sports network, Joe Dickey Electric. Trey, what do you have for us today?
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I'm going with basketball being back. We've had a lot of football going on over the air these past couple of weeks with soccer sprinkled in as well. It's good to get another sport back on the network. And, I'd say basketball starting tonight with that Hubbard and Newton Falls game. So, I'll go with basketball being back.
There it is. Rob?
I'd say going off of what we were talking about earlier, if you have, this goes for parents, this goes for, young scholar athletes. If you're getting ready to make that transition from high school to college, parents, I'm not saying be up your kids' butts or anything, but you want to be next to them. Make sure you're guiding them properly. Kids, this is the time to take advantage of those opportunities and, don't do anything stupid. Stay level-headed and, during this transition, just suck up all the support you can because there's going to probably be a lot of it. So keep your heads up.
Mine is going to be all about preparation. I'm not exactly the best preparation guy, but I'm learning to do better when it comes to that. We've got some huge prep people here at YSN that constantly are doing something. So an old adage is if you're not preparing or you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So learn to prepare, people. Understand that if you're preparing for something big ahead in your life, in your job, in a game, in school, you have to put the time in. You have to give it, as my old art teacher said, you have to give the artwork a full 42 minutes. So whatever that means to you, I'm taking that with me in life, and I'm really starting to prepare things a little bit better than I did yesterday. So that is your Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Presented by our friends over at DickeyElectric.com. Gentlemen, we are on time. First time, I think, in probably a year. So happy trails to you on this Thursday. Hope to see you both tomorrow, and we hope to see you tomorrow from 3 to 4 right here on the YSN Power Hour. Till then, we'll see you later.